Hi, everybody. Welcome to Book Club. We are on the second to last class of this book that we've been reading, Wonder by R.J. Palacio. We read the fifth section of the book this past week, and I'm excited to discuss it with all of you. I see we have a few people here already. Hi, Aubrey. Hi, Ava. I hope you guys can hear me. Ava's saying hello. Let me know if you can hear me. Hi, Mina. Hi, everyone that's coming in. Hi, AG. Hi, Ian. Ian finished the book this week. That's awesome, Ian. A lot of us, we read the fifth section of the book, and that's what we're going to be discussing. But if you went ahead and finished it, I don't blame you, because it's a great book, and we're pretty close to the end. Where's everybody else at? Did everybody else read the fifth section? Did anybody go on and finish the end of the book? That wasn't the plan yet this week, but if you did, again, yeah, sometimes when I'm reading a book and it's going really well, I can't stop myself. It's too good. You're probably thinking, Corey, how could you leave only 50 pages left in the book? We just have to run on and finish it. All right. Well, as always, for book club, I'm going to be asking you some questions about what happened in the book this week, asking for your thoughts about what happened in the book, and I want you to share those in the Q&A box. You can tell me what you thought about the book, or tell me what you think's going on in the book, or how you feel about the characters, or anything that you didn't understand. If there's something in the book that you didn't understand and you'd like some help with, you could put that in the Q&A section too, and we could talk about it. Oh, good. Aubrey, you read right up to where we were planning to read, so good job. And I'm getting one question about creative writing. Anybody that's in the creative writing class? No, you can still, it's not too late to submit your story. You can do that. You can still do that, AG. So great. All right, so back to talking about the book. Before we get into specifically what we read about this week, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the study things we've been working on. Okay, so first off, what words did we learn this week? We have been discussing our vocabulary and our ability to learn new words by looking them up in the dictionary. So I would love for you guys to write down some of the words that you learned by typing them into the Q&A section. Hi, Evan. Thanks for joining us. Welcome. As always, we don't do anything with the raise hand feature. So no need to hit that, Evan. You can just type in anything you want to share with us into the Q&A box, but the raising hand thing button doesn't do anything. So I hope that helps. Okay, so what words did we learn this week? Hopefully we wrote down some of the new vocabulary we encountered. If you don't remember, you could open up your book and flip through it and try to spot some of the new words that you learned. Hopefully we learned some new words. I would love to hear them. Yeah, you can just write those down whenever you have a moment. If later in the class you remember what words you learned, you can write that down too. Hi, April. Thanks for joining us. We're just talking about first what words we learned this week, what new vocabulary. Every time we read, we want to be looking up things that we don't know and learning new words. So who will be the first one to share a new vocabulary word in the Q&A box? I am eager to find out. While you all do that, I'm going to move on to the next thing that we're going to talk about here. This is another study tip that I wanted to share with all of you. And that, I'm just going to call it having the real thing there. When we read about things, it's a lot of words, and sometimes it can be easy to picture what the author is talking about, and sometimes it can be difficult. But either way, when you don't have the real thing there that you're studying about, it can be more difficult to understand what you're studying. So it doesn't really matter what subject you're studying, it can always be easier to understand if you have the real thing there that you're studying about. So I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to describe something to you all, and I want you to try to picture it. So I have seen a picture before of a giant piece of machinery. This giant piece of machinery is used in mining. It's like really, really big. You'd be surprised at how big this machinery slash a vehicle is. It kind of has big tank treads on the bottom, like you've seen from like army tanks. It's got these like big metal tower type things with cables connecting them. And then it has this giant wheel on the front that has like digger scoops on it. Has anybody ever seen that before? I think I've seen one of those in a movie before. Anyway, I just used a lot of words to describe it. But all of the words that I'm using to describe it don't really compare to you being able to see the real thing in real life. If I was trying to describe this to you, and I think the best situation would be if you could be there in person and see the real thing. But it's not always possible to get to where something like a giant piece of machinery is in real life. So the next best thing is to like use like Google Images or something online to look up pictures. Or you can use like clay or something that you have and try to make a model of it. But somehow we want to try to get a version of the real thing to help us understand what we are studying about. I'm going to now share a picture. So I just spent all these words describing this thing. And I'm going to guess that even if I do my best, some of you are still like, what is he talking about? So now I'm going to show you a picture that I found online. This is that giant machine I was talking about. So it has these giant tank tread things on the ground. Those little things are people standing next to it. It's got giant metal tower type things with cables, but it's got this huge metal arm thing sticking out with all these digger wheels on it. Like several people could like fit inside each one of these digger bucket things here. Yeah, April was like, whoa, I know, it's this giant machine. And I could spend all day trying to describe this to you in words, and it doesn't really compare to just seeing an actual picture of it. One picture can give you a way better understanding than a whole lot of words. So while we're studying and while we are reading, I think it's really important to try to find pictures of what we are reading about and what we're studying about. If you can go see a real thing in real life, that's even better. But I don't know where anything like this is around me. I don't know where I would have to travel to see one of these in real life. So looking for pictures online is a really great method of understanding what we're reading about and really like, you know, getting the reality of things like this. Okay, great. Going back to our first question, what words did we learn this week? April looked up, it sounds like April looked up the word ray, R-A-Y. That's awesome. Good job, April. Evan looked up boyfriend and girlfriend. Yeah, some of the characters are like Via talks about her boyfriend at a few points in this book. He's a pretty cool guy. That's awesome. Good job on looking that up. Did anybody else learn any new vocabulary words? If you did, go ahead and type them in that Q&A box. Okay, so we're going to move on to some questions about things that happened in the book now. And I really want to encourage all of you to don't be shy. When I ask the questions, type whatever you think. I mean, we have like a few dozen people here watching the book club class right now. And I think sometimes we get a little bit shy about some of these questions about what we read. And I'm encouraging you, don't be shy, jump in, write about what you think happened or what you feel about it. And I think we'll have a great book club discussion. Sometimes in the past few weeks, it felt like some people were like, I don't really want to share what I think about this. I'll let other people go. And I'm just, again, here encouraging you, share. Tell me what you think. It'll be awesome. Do not worry about if you're not sure, you don't remember. I bet you probably know it better than you think you do. So I can't wait to hear about what you think this week. All right, so the first question here. I'm gonna jump back past these slides. Oh yeah, so we read through the fairgrounds section. This was on page 260 in the hardback edition, and we learned some new vocabulary words. That was our week 5 assignment. And at the end of this class, we'll talk about our week 6 assignment. All right, here we go. So Towards the beginning of this section that we read, Augie goes and gets hearing aids for the first time. He hates how they look at first, but the doctor talks to him about Star Wars characters and says he is bionic now, which means part human, part robot. And Augie feels a lot better. So what I want to know from you guys, why do you think the doctor talked about Star Wars? And why do you think it made Augie feel better? So share what you think about that in the Q&A box. But Augie has been having hearing issues for years before this section of the book. And his doctors had told him that someday he's going to have to get hearing aids. He's going to have to get a device that goes in his ears and helps him hear better. So he's pretty mad about this, and he doesn't like that fact that he has to go see a doctor and get hearing aids put in his ears. But in this section, the doctor turns out to be a pretty nice guy and tells him that he's going to look like a Star Wars character. And I actually brought up a picture here. I wanted to show you a picture of this character that he was talking about. He says he's going to look like Lobot. This is Lobot from The Empire Strikes Back, episode 5 in the Star Wars movies. So this is what Augie is afraid of looking like. And I think we can understand how Augie feels. If he was going to go to school and look like this guy, he might be like, oh no. By the way, this is also an example of that study tip we were talking about, where they mention this character in the book, but they don't show you a picture. So going on like Google Images and looking up a picture of the character can give you the understanding of what they're actually talking about. This is the character from Star Wars that they're talking about in that section of the book. So the doctor talks to him about Star Wars and this character and says that he is bionic now, part human, part robot. And this actually makes Augie feel better. So I just want to hear from all of you. There's a couple dozen people watching right now. Share in the Q&A box. Why do you think the doctor chose to talk about Star Wars? And why do you think it made Augie feel better? All right, we have answers from April. April says she thinks it was because Augie liked Star Wars so much. And Aubrey says, yes, it's Augie loves Star Wars. Ava says, he probably did it to distract him. And since the doctor has known him for a while, he probably knows that he likes Star Wars, so he knew it would distract him. Evan says, Augie said in the start of the book that he was into Star Wars, so he would be happy. The doctor knew this, so he talked about Star Wars. You guys are totally right. I agree. Going to the doctor can be kind of scary sometimes, and especially having to get hearing aids that make you think you're going to look even weirder than you already do. Augie, as we know, he doesn't love the way that he looks, and now he thinks he's going to have big old robotic things put on the sides of his head. He's like, no, this is going to be even worse. And I think you're right. The doctor probably knows that he doesn't feel great about this. So the doctor guesses accurately that he likes Star Wars, or he maybe already knew that he liked Star Wars. So by talking about Star Wars, he can make Augie feel comfortable. He can make him feel like instead of it being something bad to have these hearing aids, that's actually kind of cool. He's like, you're part robot now. That's pretty rad. For Augie, that's a plus. So awesome. If you guys have any more thoughts about that, you can go ahead and share them in the Q&A box too. Okay, next question. Oh, there's Lobot again. All right, next question. So the rest of the family finds out around dinner, or they're talking about at dinner, that Via is in a play, but she doesn't want Augie to go. And this is kind of this is an upsetting thing for Augie. Why doesn't Augie's sister want him to go to the play? If you feel like you understand why, go ahead and type that in the Q&A box. Yeah, so the whole family's around the table. They find out that she's in this play. They're talking about it. There's a little bit of shouting. There are some mean things said back and forth. They eventually agree that at first they decide that Via's dad is going to go, but Via's mom is going to stay back. Then Via's not happy about that. She's not happy about, at first she didn't want them to go at all, but now that they know about it, she's not happy that her mom is staying back. So what is going on here? Why doesn't Augie's sister want him to go to the play? Why is Via upset about this? Evan jumping in there. So Evan says it's because of his condition, like what he looks like. Can you tell me more about that, Evan? Like, why do you think Via doesn't want Augie to go to the play? I mean, you know, Via doesn't care. Via's known him, her, you know, his entire life. She loves him. So he's her little brother. You know, she's always defended him and protected him. But now she's in high school and she's in this play and she's not really sure she wants him to go. Elizabeth says she thinks he will take the attention away and she wants to protect Augie. I think those are great points. Mina says, I think she might be embarrassed of Augie. I think that's probably a good point too. I think we can feel if we put ourselves in Via's shoes. Oh, another comment here. Evan says of course she likes him, but she probably thinks her new friends will think he is ugly. Ava says, because most of the attention in the family is on, I'm not sure what word we're saying there, but she wants the play to be something with just her and her parents. She doesn't want people to make fun of them or stare at them. April says, because then other people think Augie looks weird, and she thinks if other people find out, people won't like her. Oh, Ava was trying to say Augie there. Okay, yeah. Aubrey says she does not want her friends to know about her brother. Katrina says she might think that Augie with his hearing aid will get laughed at. I think you guys are all making excellent points. So Via is not really ashamed of her brother, right? But Via is going to a new school for the first time in a long time, and nobody at her school really knows about Augie. Even though she's not ashamed of him, you know, when Augie comes around, it always takes a lot of attention, like you guys are talking about. So being in this play, Via does kind of have a chance to do something for herself. She kind of has a chance to have the attention on her for once, when usually the attention is on her little brother. And at first she decides to go about not telling her parents that she's in a play at all, which is interesting because I think if we're paying attention throughout this book, there's actually a lot of times where the characters, the young people, don't tell their parents about something because they kind of want to handle it themselves. That seems to be a bit of a reoccurring theme. Jack Will not telling his parents about what's going on with Julian, Via not telling her parents that she's in a play. But when her parents find out, what do they eventually decide to do? They're going to go, and even Augie's going to go, and Via doesn't mind. She decides that she's going to do her thing, and she's not going to be embarrassed of her brother. And when Augie goes, some people do stare at him, but that's not anything that Augie's not used to, right? Okay. Very good points you guys made in your answers there. Good job. All right, our next question. So, Via was an understudy in the play. And if anybody has any questions about what that means, they explained it a little bit in the book, but if you have a question about what that means, you can just ask. So Via was an understudy in the play, but when the curtains open, they're really surprised to see that she is actually the main performer in the show. She comes out on stage. It's supposed to be Miranda, the main actress, but it's Via instead, and they're all really surprised. So what happened? How come Via was on stage instead of Miranda? We see this from Augie's viewpoint first, and then in the next section of the book, Miranda actually gets to talk and tell her story and her side of things a little bit, and we get to learn about things from Miranda's viewpoint for the first time. Miranda kind of talks about her life a little bit. She specifically talks about the play, and she talks about the decision to, you know, have Via go on? I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on this. So yeah, AG says, Miranda pretended to be sick, right? Yes, you are right. She pretended to be sick and said that she couldn't go on. Yep, April says Miranda was sick. Mina says Miranda used to be her friend, but Miranda felt bad and let her on stage instead of Miranda. You guys are totally right. Why did Miranda do this though? I want to hear from you guys. Why did Miranda pretend to be sick? Why did Miranda want Via to go on stage instead of her? I'll give you a minute to think about that. Yep, Aubrey, you're totally right. Miranda pretended to be sick. She tells the director right before the show starts, she's like, oh, my stomach hurts. I can't go on. And the director's like, what? Because it's like minutes before the play starts. And his lead actress says, yeah, I can't do it after all. So Via is an understudy, which means that Via has also been practicing the main part. And if the lead actress gets sick, the understudy is supposed to jump in and take the lead actress's part. So Miranda pretends to be sick and says, I can't go on, and says, you know, Via's going to have to do it. Haley says because she knows that Via wanted to play that part. Yeah, I think you're totally right. Via definitely does want to play that part. Via's been practicing to take over in case she needed to. So Miranda tells us a little bit about her life and what's going on in her life. She talks about how, you know, her dad has a new wife and is about to have a baby any day. She talks about her mom working. She talks about how Miranda, it's a little bit sad, but most of Miranda off doing something else that night. Miranda doesn't really have anybody in the audience. Ava says, Miranda saw Via and Augie's parents, and maybe she wanted them to see Via perform because they were there, but nobody was there to see Miranda perform. Ava, I think you hit the nail on the head. You guys all had great comments, but I think that's a good explanation. When we see things from Miranda's perspective, from her viewpoint, Miranda's like pretty cool. She's like pretty understanding. She knows that Augie and Via used to be a big part of her life. And we'll talk about that more in a little bit. But they're kind of not really friends anymore. But she sees Via's whole family in the audience, and she doesn't have anybody there. And if Miranda goes on stage, Via won't be in the play at all. So she makes this decision to pretend to be sick. Elizabeth says, because Via's parents were there and wanted to support her, and Miranda wanted her to be supported by her family, since Miranda's family wasn't there. Yeah, I think you're totally right, Elizabeth. Yeah, and April's pointing out that she wasn't really sick. Yeah. So I think if we put ourselves in Miranda's shoes, it was a kind of a pretty cool thing that she did. She sees that Via's family is there, and this is probably the only night they're going to come see the play. But if Miranda goes on stage, Via's family won't get to actually see Via perform. So she makes a quick decision. There's going to be more performances. Like, you know, Miranda will still get to perform the part. Oh, Ava makes another good point. Ava says Miranda probably also knew that Via didn't get that much attention from her parents. Yeah, it's been something when we see things from Via's viewpoint. We know that Augie takes up so much time and attention with his very real like medical issues that Via often feels a little bit ignored or a little bit like left out. And Miranda is pretty understanding. We talked before in an earlier class about empathy. Miranda, it appears, is really able to kind of see what is going on in Via's life. And she goes, I'm going to do this for Via. I'm going to step back, pretend to be sick so that Via can have her moment to shine here. It was pretty awesome. It was pretty cool. Okay, next question. So in that same section, Miranda talked about making up a story when she's at a summer camp that she has a little brother like Augie. So she makes up the story, and she actually gets a lot of like attention and kind of some sympathy from other people around her. When she goes back to school and sees Via at school the next year, she starts avoiding Via, and they kind of stop being friends. Do you think that making up this story made her feel guilty? And if so, why? So again, Miranda was like really good friends with Via. She often felt like she knew Augie so well that he kind of was her little brother. But she makes up the story and she tells people that she has a little brother like Augie with, medical issues. And she suddenly seems more popular. People, give her more attention. They feel sorry for her. When she goes back to school, she starts avoiding Via. Do you think these things are connected? Evan says yes. If you think so, Evan, tell us more. Tell us why you think that. April says, what does guilty mean? April, guilty is when you kind of feel bad about something that you did. So Miranda makes up the story and pretends like basically Augie's her little brother. And then when he's not, and when she sees Via at school, and Via really is his sister and really does have to go through her life having, a sibling with major medical issues, she avoids her and they kind of stop being friends. So do you think she feels bad about telling people that he was her brother when he's not? Katrina says, I agree. Tell me more, Katrina. Why do you think she felt that way? What do you think the evidence is for that? Mina says, yes, because they used to be friends. So tell me more. Why would making up the story make her feel guilty? Why would it affect their friendship to tell people that he was her little brother, basically, when he wasn't? Haley says, because she knows that she did something wrong. She basically lied and is worried that Via will find out. Yeah, I agree. I think she is worried about that. April says Miranda was definitely guilty. Elizabeth says, I think she felt guilty because she used that story to make herself cool, and Via doesn't use the story for attention or popularity. She also feels guilty because she feels like this attention shouldn't all go to her, and because that isn't her life or her story. Elizabeth, I think you make really good points there. Hi, Paige. Paige just joined us. Paige, we're talking about the 5th section of Wonder that we read. Evan, you do not need to press the raise hand feature. It doesn't really do anything. I do see your comment here, Evan. So thank you for typing that in the Q&A box. Evan says, she basically saw Via, when she saw Via, she felt selfish because she lied about something, and she kind of pretended that a life was hers that wasn't really hers. She kind of pretended that she was going through something that she wasn't really, and that made her feel bad. Yeah, that's a good point, Evan. Ava says, probably because Miranda knew that it was harder on the family to have Augie, and it wasn't something Via liked to tell people about, because people would think it was weird, and Miranda told everybody that for attention and popularity, when in reality, it was difficult having Augie, so she was kind of making light out of a dark situation. I think that is a very good point, Ava. Good job. Yeah, Mina says, when she lied, she used a serious disease to make herself popular and then didn't hang out with Miranda. I'm sorry, no. Then she didn't hang out with Via. Yeah, I agree, Mina. So I think we can probably all think of a time that we said something without really thinking about it, and we felt afterward like, probably shouldn't have said that. I know I've been there. So Miranda just comes out and says this, and then she finds herself getting attention and getting some popularity and people feeling sorry for her. And she goes with it. She doesn't correct people. She doesn't say, actually, that's not true. She goes with it for all of summer camp. And then at school, she kind of stops being friends with the actual big sister. I was happy to see that by the end of this section of the book, that she and Via have kind of patched things up after the play. Via's family says, you know, hey, Miranda, you're coming with us tonight. We're going to go, you know, we're going to go hang out. And that made me really happy to see that they kind of repaired the situation. April says, I learned a new word, guilty. Awesome, April. Good job. Well done. Katrina says, which book are these paragraphs from? I'd like to check out that book. Hi, Katrina. We are reading from Wonder by R.J. Palacio. So if you haven't been reading it week by week with us, I highly recommend getting this from the library, or you can get it on Amazon or from your local bookstore. It's a great book. We are almost done with it. We read between the green and the orange piece of paper this week, and we only have one section left. So yeah. Okay, I think I have one more question for all of you today. Okay. So as Augie prepares to go to the nature retreat, at the end of this section that we read, he's getting ready to go. He's going to go with his class. They're going to be away for like 3 days and 2 nights. And he decides he doesn't want to bring his old Star Wars bag. He's got this like Star Wars bag that he usually would pack clothes and stuff in. He's never been away from home for the night. And he's got to pack up his stuff. And he tells his mom he does not want to bring his old Star Wars bag. His mom also notices he has taken down his Star Wars poster. And he tells his mom he is changing his image. Why is Augie trying to be known for something else now? Why is he telling his mom he doesn't really want to be known as the Star Wars guy anymore? He's in middle school now. He's kind of got some new friends. He talks a little bit about this subject of kind of starting fresh, getting to have sort of a new image. He talks about some of his friends and kind of what they're known for. Why do you think he doesn't want to be known as the Star Wars guy? It's kind of funny because he talks about some of like the other boys in his class, and he talks about like what they're known as. There's a couple of boys that are like, they're known as the Dungeons and Dragons kids, and that's like a game you can play. He talks about one of his friends, I think Charlotte, is like known as the girl who was in a commercial one time. Even with Via being in high school, you know, Via, it kind of, you know, on that previous question where we're talking about like, why does she not want her family to come to the play? I think it ties into this question too. It's kind of like you go to a new school or you're starting like a new chapter of your life. In a way, you kind of have an opportunity to start fresh, kind of what you're known as, like what you're known for. Your new group or your new school or your, you know, whoever your new friends are going to be, maybe they don't already know about you. You can kind of choose what they know about you, right? Haley says, he thinks he's a little too old for Star Wars and does not want anyone to find that out. Ava says, maybe it's because of his hearing aids, or he doesn't want his entire personality to be labeled as Star Wars or something. Paige says, he thinks that he is too old for Star Wars, but my dad is a full adult and he loves Star Wars still. I agree. I love Star Wars too, Paige. And if you guys watch the space science class with James, he is one of the biggest Star Wars fans you're ever going to meet. So you definitely don't get too old for Star Wars. But I think we can all understand Augie or anybody else feeling this way, right? Have you ever felt in your life like that thing that I used to be really into, maybe I'm too old for that? Maybe, is that like a little kid thing? Is that like a younger person thing? Do I need to stop liking that? Have you guys ever experienced that? I remember feeling that way when I was younger. April says, Julian likes Star Wars and Augie is afraid if he finds out Augie likes Star Wars, Julian won't like him more. I think it's definitely possible, April. Evan says, I love the pod racing in Star Wars. Yeah, that's a pretty awesome. Those scenes are pretty awesome. I love those too. So why specifically Star Wars? I mean, Augie is into a lot of, you know, things. He wore an astronaut helmet around for several years, but Star Wars is definitely a big part of his interest. Do you think he's just trying to move on in general? Do you think he just kind of wants, does he feel like he's growing up a little bit? So he's just trying to put some of his, interests behind him. He even has a conversation with his mom where she says, "You've grown up a lot this year." And at first he thinks to himself, "Oh, am I taller?" And she's like, "Yeah, you are, but you've grown up in other ways." Did you guys notice any ways that from the beginning of the book till now, is Augie more mature, or is he acting more grown up by this point in the book than he was at the beginning? If you can think of any examples, let me know. All right. Now that was the last question I had for all of you. So if you guys would like, you can just tell me about how you're enjoying the book at this point. We only have one section left. There's only about 50 pages, and then we're going to be all done. Are you guys enjoying the book? There was a few sad parts of this book in this chunk that we just read this past week. The family, their dog gets kind of sick, and they have to take the dog to the vet, and it turns out that their dog has to be put down. I don't know about you guys, but that part was pretty emotional for me. I think the author is really good at, writing some emotional scenes that really make you feel like the characters feel in the moment. April says that she finished the whole book already. So April, what did you think about this part of the book? Did you find this part more emotional? I definitely did. Yeah, while you guys think about that. So I'm gonna let you know our assignment for this last week. Again, we only have one chunk left. So your assignment is read to the end of the book. And if, like April, you've already read the whole book, you could review it. You could look at the last chunk of the book. If you still have it from the library, you can review the end so you're really fresh and you remember what happened and can talk about it. Yeah, but we're gonna read to the end of the book, and next week on Tuesday afternoon, we're gonna talk about the book one last time, and then we're gonna be all done. April disliked the part where Daisy died. Yeah, I agree. That was pretty, that was pretty sad. But it was well written. It really made you feel like you were there. Haley points out that Augie carried his own backpack at the beginning of school. Yeah. He, throughout the whole school year, I mean, at the beginning, he definitely acted a bit younger in the whole school year. He's been having to sort of grow up and mature and do more things for himself. It's been pretty awesome to see that growth throughout the book. All right, well, I think we're gonna end off a few minutes earlier than usual because we've answered all the questions we had for this week. And here we have our week 6 assignment. We're gonna read to the end of the book. So it's been awesome reading it. We have one more chunk to go together. Thank you guys for watching today, and I will see you next week. Yeah, that's all we have for today. All right, bye everybody. Thanks for watching. Bye Evan, see you next class. Bye AG, you're very welcome. Bye Aubrey. Bye Ava. See you guys next time.